and that was from yesterday. James Wood left on left, taking on a lefty. Supposedly one of the reasons he's still in the minor leagues, delivering a big 2-run knock the opposite way. James Wood, as we sit here today on May 20th, is batting .353 with a .457 on base percentage and a .1021 OPS. He has 7 home runs. He has 10 stolen bases. He has been excellent and at times dominated at the AAA level. As a 21-year-old, you can always find reasons why he's still working, why he might not be in the major leagues if you want to find them. But he looks big league ready. He has for several weeks. And I go back to, and I think this is important, he was the best player at big league spring training. Not that close.
Right.
But over a month of big league spring training games, consistently facing major league pitching day in, day out, James Wood was the best player on the Nationals. So then they sent him to spring training. Out of spring training to the minors, I should say. Correctly, they sent him to the minor leagues to get some work at AAA. That was coming up on 2 months ago. Since then, he has been amazing, and he's still not up at the big league level. One of the reasons, as I said, is left-handed pitching. You got to face it. You're not seeing enough of it. You're not thriving against it. Well, after a week where he killed left-handed pitching, he's now hitting .297 against lefties with a .950 OPS. So give me another reason. I am officially today annoyed. I have not been yet for a few reasons, but one, the team was playing pretty well. They were winning, they were hitting, they were scoring. So that staves off any kind of necessity to force him to the major league level. The Nats can't hit right now. They haven't been able to hit for a couple of weeks. They went 7 days without a home run. I want to repeat that. From last Sunday, when Eddie Rosario hit a home run at Fenway Park, to yesterday afternoon, when again Eddie Rosario hit a home run, this time in Philadelphia. The rest of the team had not homered. They have a total of 7 home runs over the last 2 calendar weeks. And it's Eddie Rosario with 5 homers, and then Winker with 1, and Joey Meneses with his only home run of the season. So you kind of bundle that all up, Danny, with the fact that you've got this power hitter in AAA where he's not facing great stuff. He's not really facing not only good starting pitching, but a ton of lefties, like the things that he theoretically is working on. He doesn't get to work on to the same extent that he would at the major league level. And I'm officially now annoyed by this. I have done a good job, I think, not doing my call him up bit on Twitter. I've never mentioned it once. I've just kind of been patient. I thought he would be up last homestand. That was the first time I thought, well, this is kind of dumb. Because really 2 homestands ago was the World Series celebration with the Astros.
Yeah.
You're going to get a bunch of 35,000 person days. Maybe you don't want to, quote unquote, like waste the juice you get from him when you're already packing the gills because you got giveaways. So then the next homestand last time came and went. They didn't call him up. So I thought, okay, for sure. May 20th, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday against Minnesota. Not going to be a lot of people at the ballpark. Oh, by the way, you can't hit, you can't score. Joey Meneses is useless. Nick Senzel gives you next to nothing. Now, Victor Robles, it's the same act it's been for years. There's plenty of room on the roster here. He's not getting called up, it doesn't appear, for this homestand. So today's the first day of my I am now officially annoyed.
Let me throw this at you. If you don't like it, throw it right back. I bet you're not going to like it, but let me try. You already said a couple of the names. Rosario, Senzel, Winker, Gallo. These are all extraordinarily short-term pieces who are outfielders. Lane Thomas is on his way back, hopefully at some point, by the way. I'd like more updates. I'd like Lane Thomas in the lineup.
Gallo's
they really miss
played
him.
Outfield, in fairness, like one more time than you. He's
Totally.
basically a first baseman on this team.
But spot in the order, right? I mean, this is, and Meneses kind of as well. I think they are so desperate for the long-term health of the franchise for some of these guys to do something so that they can trade them. And again, whether it's build the system, get another prospect, package them together, who knows what they want. But they don't care necessarily about the production of Nick Senzel, Jesse Winker, Eddie Rosario, Joey Gallo, whomever. They want those guys to have enough chance at the major league level to start hitting at all. Some of those cases, it's not going to happen, to then be able to spin them, which is more important than a couple more weeks of James Wood.
Sure.
Your thoughts?
If you actually think any of those guys have value.
That's the rub.
You will not be able to get anything for Joey Meneses. He is a first base DH who doesn't have power and doesn't run. Some of what I'm about to say will sound mean. It's not the kind of radio I like to do. I'm now like analyzing players, but this is the job.
Mhm.
Joey Meneses was an amazing story.
Yes.
Came up to the major leagues. I think he was like a 29, 30-year-old rookie. This was now 3 seasons ago. That was the end of the 2022 season where he hit well and played well. All of last year, and he did drive in a lot of runs, so I give him credit for his approach with runners in scoring position, but it's a lot of singles. It's a low OPS. It's a lack of power. Right now, he is a low average hitting guy without speed who it doesn't have a defensive position, and when he plays defense, doesn't do it well. He doesn't help me.
Correct.
There's just nothing there. That there is, I don't care if he goes 10 for his next 10 or if he goes 50 for his next 60. There's not really trade value in Joey Meneses. So I would kind of cross him off the list. Rosario absolutely should continue to get opportunities because he's got a plus trait. He's got an attribute with power that is possibly redeemable and intriguing and appetizing on the trade market. By the way, he was the National League Player of the Week a week before this past week.
Yes.
He's been their best player over the last 2 weeks. So I'm not suggesting, although 3 weeks ago, somebody might have said, move on from him, whatever. I didn't even have a problem riding with him then, to be honest with you, because he has that power. He's been the NLCS MVP a couple years ago with the Braves.
Especially with Lane Thomas hurt, right? Like,
exactly.
Keep setting him up.
But therein lies the problem, right? Is that Lane Thomas is coming back. And when he comes back, you've got Lane Thomas, Eddie Rosario, Jesse Winker, Jacob Young, Victor Robles. My concern is that they are going to send Jacob Young, who's leading all rookies in stolen bases with 14 down. The one fun thing about this team right now is that they steal bases. The fun thing about this team is it's a track meet. They get on base. They run. Jacob Young was just ranked by some dumb publication. I don't remember what it was or why. Like the number 10 center fielder in baseball so far this year. Basically because when the guy gets on, he steals, and he has actually made an impact. He can play decent defense. I am going to be livid if they keep Victor Robles in the major leagues and they send him down. Just like I was pretty upset the other day when they had to activate Joey Gallo, who has given them next to nothing, by the way. He's a guy you could at least make the case could have some value on the trade market with power if he were to get hot. But I don't know about that, man. I mean, there was no real market for him this offseason. It's been a couple of years since he really
it was a flyer, but, and I don't blame you for trying. It didn't cost much.
But when he was activated and elevated this weekend, they had a decision to make. And at that time, I thought this could be the end of the road for Joey Meneses finally. Or Nick Senzel presumably would have to agree to it. I don't know if he would say yes or no, what the deal is. But like those guys have options. You send one of them to the minors, and if it means you lose them in the organization or they could get claimed or they have the chance to opt out or whatever, then so be it. They sent Trey Lipscomb down right after he had another 3-hit, 3-steal game. I'm not sitting here saying Trey Lipscomb doesn't still have areas where he needs to develop or that Trey Lipscomb is a star. He's not even ranked among their top 15 prospects, I don't think, according to MLB Pipeline. I like him more than they do. I think he could be their everyday second baseman for a long time to come because he runs, he can be athletic and play defense, and he's got a little bit of power, and he has a good idea at the plate. But he's basically been a league average player, a 620 OPS, a 250 average, kind of hair above league average, essentially. 1 home run, but he's got 10 steals, and that's the calling card on this team where the whole point is they're last in baseball in the last month in home runs. I think they're second to last for the season. You got to manufacture and build. So instead of keeping him in the major leagues and sending one of the veterans who's got very little to add down, what do? They keep them in the big leagues. They send him back to AAA. And I have a long-term view. I keep reminding everyone. This is a rebuild. This is not about trying to be a wild card team this year. They're not good enough to do that anyway. The fact that they've lost 5 in a row and they're 20-25, no problem. Whatever. I would like to see them lose with James Wood developing at the major league level. I would like to see them get shut out 2 straight games against the White Sox, fail against the Phillies with Trey Lipscomb playing and not a cavalcade of a bunch of veterans who will not be here next year. And that's not a lot to ask, by the way. I'm not being ridiculous in saying put Dylan Cruz in the major leagues or, call up Cade Cavalli next week when he started his rehab in Florida today. The dude that was your best player in spring training who's got an OPS over 1020 at AAA, where there's not a whole lot more that he can prove, get him here. Why don't you think he's in the major leagues?
I go back to it. I think they are desperate for one of these guys that's on a short-term deal. They got 3 one-year players in Rosario. I think Gallo maybe has an option, but it's Winker, Rosario, and Nick Senzel. They're desperate for 1, 2, maybe all 3 of those guys to do something so they can spin them. They don't want to take them out of the lineup. I think it's as simple as that. And no, I'm not saying I love it, but I think that's all this is.
So, first of all, Gallo does not have an option. It's a 1-year, $5 million deal. Remember, they deferred it over 3 years.
The deferring. That's right.
That's what you're thinking.
There we go. Yeah, because I knew it was multiple years. I couldn't remember. Yeah.
It's an insane thing.
Yep.
It's a $5 million deal that's deferred over 3 years. I'm going to say that one more time because I think it needs to be said one more time.
Do it like enunciate it.
I'm going to hit the bell, actually.
Here we go. Hit the bell.
Deferred contracts, when you hear about them, normally it's like hundreds of millions of dollars, like the Shohei thing or Scherzer or something. It was a 1-year, $5 million deal of peanuts that was deferred over 3 years.
3 years.
So amazing to me. So here is what I think, and I hope I hope I'm wrong. I think Mike Rizzo and his staff know what they're doing to the extent that I always kind of give them the benefit of the doubt and assume there's something at play here. We've talked a lot about the fact that if you called James Wood up at the start of the year, had him on the roster, he would have gotten to free agency a year earlier, and he's represented by Scott Boras. They're past that. He can no longer get that year of service to get to free agency. But there is a thing in baseball called Super 2 status. Super 2 status is a percentage of the players called up that year. And if you are among, I forget what it is, the top 22% or whatever,
right,
you essentially get a earlier year of arbitration eligibility. What is that? Arbitration eligibility is where you get to take a team to court to give you a raise. Okay. It's a hearing where a judge sits there and you say, here's why I deserve $5 million. And the team goes, here's why he only deserves $2 million. And then the judge says, give him 3.5, or he wins 5, or you win 2. The way I understand it is most years, the date is early June when you can safely call a player up and they don't get Super 2 status to get the extra early opportunity at arbitration. I hope I'm wrong, but my best guess is that the baseball people are being told to make a business decision. That's all I got. And I haven't talked to Mike Rizzo about this. I haven't talked to anyone in the front office. I could get a call from someone who goes, you're crazy, you're an idiot. That's not what we're doing. He needs to keep learning. Okay, they know more about baseball than I do. They have so many guys on that team right now that don't help them. This is not me saying you need to win the division or make the playoffs.
Right.
These are not players that help you. They got bad body language and dropping fly balls and like all the things that should be annoying everybody. Some of the veterans are doing. They need a shot in the arm. They need some power. They need some energy. And this kid is ready. And if you want to say, well, he might fail when he gets to the big leagues. Yeah, probably. Just like Jackson Holiday.
You mean like baseball?
And like every other prospect that's been called up. But you can't have both when people say, well, the gap between AAA and the big leagues is so much bigger. You know, look at all these guys getting called up that are struggling. Yeah, that just tells me he's acing AAA. There's nothing for him there. Keeping him there longer when the pitching isn't as good and he's not seeing velocity is not going to help him get prepared for the big leagues. The longer he's there, the harder the jump's probably going to be eventually. So let's do this damn thing. So why am I complaining today? It just kind of in my mind, I've thought this was the homestand for a while. And now that it's not, they're probably not calling him up on the road, I wouldn't think, because you're trying to get some home dates. You're trying to get butts in seats. So you're talking about now a couple more weeks potentially into June. Cool, I guess. I mean, it's just, this is officially annoying.
What would there be an explanation that satisfies you?
Sure.
You know, like, what do I mean by satisfy? I mean, basically say, like, not only do you understand it, but you wouldn't be annoyed about it. Does that make sense? The distinction?
Yes, I would say probably no to that distinction. I mean, if they came out and they said, the only thing we've really heard was the Barry's Faluga piece where he was kind of citing some people saying he needed to work more left on left, which again, he's done very well at. But if they're like, we want him to get more at bats, I can disagree with the logic, but at least I can say, okay, there's a baseball reason. I don't think there's a reasonable baseball reason why he's still down there. And that's kind of my point. Is it a huge deal? No, it's really not.
Because in the grand scheme, we're talking about a few weeks, and I know it seems like an eternity right now when they can't score, they're getting shut out, they're losing, they can't hit homers.
Here's the deal: I'm paying for a ticket tonight. I'm going over to the game. I'm waddling down F Street. I'm buying a ticket to the Nats game tonight. I get to complain when I'm watching Joey Meneses go 0 for 4.
Mhm.
Maybe he'll hit a single. We might get lucky.
Little broken bat looper.
Like, give me a break, dude.
Yeah. I don't disagree with you.
He's ready.
I mean, to me, this is if I felt like it was a matter of time before, for the sake of argument, Nick Senzel, Jesse Winker, Rosario, and Rosario's been crushing the ball. So maybe that's not a good example. But one of these guys on these short-term deals starts crushing the ball, and they go, see, this is why we waited. Now we could spin this dude at the trade deadline or something. Then I go, okay, but I don't see it from anybody.
You know what I think swung me into kind of annoyance was the Lipscomb decision again, where it was the clear prioritization, almost like, am I allowed, like, is Rizzo allowed to eat any money? Maybe not, but to send him down to keep this group of guys. And I'm telling you, if they send Jacob Young down to keep Robles in the big leagues, my head will explode. When Lane Thomas comes back, if it's Lane Thomas and all the veteran outfielders and Jacob Young goes back to AAA, what am I doing?
So I'm not on your level of annoyance yet. I will tell you this. If the thing you just mentioned, if that happens, I'm going to be so annoying.
Yeah.
You guys are going to be annoyed by me.